Okay, I have a question for you.
Hmm.
When I say the word economics, what's the first image that pops into your head?
Oh, boy.
Is it like a guy in a chaotic trading pit screaming, sell?
Yeah.
Maybe a boring PowerPoint slide about interest rates.
For most people, I think it's just dread or, just complete boredom.
Exactly. And that is why we are here today. We are going to tackle a subject that, let's be honest, is often unfairly maligned as the dismal science.
That's putting it mildly.
But before you instinctively reach for that skip button, I want to completely reframe the mission of this deep dive.
Please do, because if you think economics is just for money people or stockbrokers, you've really been misled.
We've been combing through a stack of materials for this one academic intros, encyclopedic overviews, and some really sharp analyses of Adam Smith's 1776 classic, The Wealth of Nations. And the big takeaway, it isn't about money. It isn't even about banking.
Oh, it's about choice.
That's the headline. Economics is the science of choice.
That's it. Right. Whether you're a prime minister deciding on a national budget, or you're just a student deciding whether to sleep in or go for a run on a Saturday morning, you are doing economics.
Mm-hmm. So our goal today is to hand you a toolkit for making those decisions, well, better.
I like that. Think of it as an operating system for daily life. It just helps you process the world a little more clearly.
Exactly.
So let's start at the very beginning. The word itself, economics. It sounds huge, really imposing, but the root of the word is surprisingly humble.
It really is. It comes from ancient Greek, oikos, which means house, and nomos, meaning custom or law.
So managing a household.
Literally, managing a household.
Okay.
Stripped of all the jargon, that's all it is.
Which, as anyone who's ever tried to run a house knows, is just a never-ending series of difficult trade-offs.
Right. Who gets the car? Do we fix the roof or go on vacation?
And that brings us to the engine that drives this whole field, the one problem that never goes away no matter how rich you are.
Scarcity.
This is the bedrock concept, isn't it? The whole foundation.
It is, yeah. And it's a little tragic, philosophically speaking.
Tragic. How so?
Well, the fundamental economic problem is that human wants are. They're basically unlimited. We are just wired to always want more.
More comfort, more time, better health.
Faster phones. But the resources we have to satisfy those wants, our time, our money, the raw materials on the planet, they are limited. They're scarce.
So there's a permanent, unbridgeable gap between what we want and what we can actually have.
Exactly. And because of that gap, you can't have everything.
You're forced to choose.
You're forced to choose. And economics is simply the study of how we make those choices.
Okay, so if this is the science of choice, let's open up that toolkit. If I want to stop making bad decisions, what's a first tool I should grab?
Oh, without a doubt, it is opportunity cost.
I love this concept, but I think it's often misunderstood. People hear costs, and they immediately think of the price tag on the shelf.
Right, and that's the trap. The price tag is just the accounting cost. The opportunity cost is something deeper. It's the value of the next best alternative that you sacrifice.
The road not taken.
That's a great way to put it. It's the road not taken.
Okay, let's make this concrete.
Yeah.
One of our sources had a really relatable example with a student and their Saturday. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So imagine a student. Their limited resource is time. It's Saturday. They have, let's say, 3 options. Option A, work an 8-hour shift at a cafe. The source uses a minimum wage of £8, so that's 64 pounds cash.
Okay, option B.
Option B, study for their A-levels. Option C, sleep, scroll through social media,
The classic dilemma. I think most people would look at option A and say, great, I made 64 quid. The cost was 0 because I didn't spend any money.
Precisely. That's how a normal person thinks. But an economist screams, no.
Why?
Because the cost of that 64 pounds was the lost study time. That was the next best alternative.
And this is where it gets a little scary. Because if that lost study time leads to a lower grade on the exam,
which then leads to missing out on a university spot, which leads to a lower paying career, well then the opportunity cost of that Saturday shift wasn't 0. It might have been hundreds of thousands of pounds in lost lifetime earnings.
Wow. You basically paid a fortune to work that shift.
That's the economic way of looking at it. It forces you to look at the long game.
And this applies to everything, doesn't it? Even to you, the listener, right now.
Absolutely. You're spending roughly 15 minutes with us. The opportunity cost is whatever else you could be doing, working, sleeping, calling your mom.
Hmm.
By being here, you are implicitly deciding this is more valuable than those other things.
Well, we better make it worth it then. Okay, so to make anything happen, a podcast, a car, a pizza, economists say you need certain ingredients, the factors of production.
Yes, this is the classic recipe list for the whole economy. To produce any good or service, you need 4 specific things.
Let's run through them. First up is labor.
That's the human element. Physical or mental effort. The barista, the coder. And the reward for labor is a wage.
Simple enough. Second is land.
But not just a plot of dirt. In economics, land is shorthand for all natural resources. Minerals, water, oil, the gifts of nature. And the reward for owning it is rent.
Third.
Capital. Now, this is a tricky one. In normal conversation, capital means money.
Right. I need capital to start my business.
Exactly. But in economics, capital means manufactured inputs. It's the stuff used to make other stuff.
So machines, buildings, computers.
Delivery trucks. A carpenter's capital is his saw, not his bank account. And the reward for capital is interest.
And the fourth one is the spark that lights the fire.
Entrepreneurship. You can have land, workers, and machines just sitting there and nothing happens. You need the entrepreneur to organize them, take the risk. Their reward, if they succeed, is profit.
Which explains why profit is so hard to come by. It's the reward for taking that risk.
Mm-hmm.
Now, staying on production, there was a visual concept in the notes called the PPF, the Production Possibilities Frontier.
Sounds very sci-fi, doesn't it?
It does, but it's actually a graph about limits.
It is. It's a way to visualize that scarcity we talked about. Imagine an economy that can only produce 2 things. The classic is guns and butter, but our source used food and computers.
Okay, food and computers, that's our whole economy.
Right. So if you put 100% of your resources, every worker, every field, into food, you have tons of grain but 0 computers.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. The PPF is the curve connecting those 2 extremes. It shows the absolute maximum you can produce.
So if we're operating at a point inside that curve,
That means we're being inefficient. We've got idle workers or broken machines. We could be producing more of both things. We're leaving value on the table.
and a point outside the curve is,
Impossible.
yeah.
For now, that is the definition of impossible. To get there, you need economic growth, better technology, more resources, something to push the whole curve outward.
One thing I noticed, the curve isn't a straight line, it's bowed outwards. Why is that?
That represents the law of increasing opportunity cost. Think about it. Some resources are great for farming, like fertile soil and people who know tractors.
Right.
And some resources are great for tech, silicon, engineers. If you try to switch everything over to making computers, eventually you have to force farmers to try and make microchips.
Which wouldn't go well.
Not at all. They'd be terrible at it. So you'd give up a huge amount of food to get just a tiny increase in computers.
Yeah.
The cost skyrockets. That's why the curve bows out.
That makes perfect sense. Now, we've been zooming in on specific decisions, but economics really splits into 2 huge fields, right? The microscopic and the telescopic.
Micro and macro.
Give us the distinction.
Microeconomics looks at the trees. It studies individual units. How does a household handle medical debt? How does a specific firm decide how many pizzas to make? It's about specific markets.
And macroeconomics is the forest.
Right, the big picture. National income, total employment, inflation. It asks questions like, why is the price of everything going up? Or why did millions of people lose their jobs all at once?
Macroeconomics is actually the younger sibling, isn't it? It didn't really exist as a field until things went horribly wrong.
That's true. Before the 1930s, the dominant view was laissez-faire. Just leave the market alone, it will fix itself.
But then the Great Depression hit.
And the market didn't fix itself. You had massive, persistent unemployment, and people were starving. So economists like John Maynard Keynes stepped in. He argued you have to look at the total demand in the economy and that governments have a duty to intervene.
Because the human cost was just too high.
Exactly. And there was a really stark fact in one of our sources that drove this home. It connected these dry economic stats to, well, political catastrophe.
I remember this.
It noted that in 1933, unemployment in Germany hit 6 million people. That level of economic despair was a critical factor, maybe the deciding factor in the rise of Adolf Hitler.
That really stops you in your tracks.
It does. It's a chilling reminder that these macroeconomic numbers aren't just data points. They represent the stability of civilization. When the macroeconomy breaks, society can break with it.
So economics isn't just about maximizing profit, it's about keeping the peace.
Absolutely.
Speaking of the history of these ideas, we have to talk about the father of economics, Adam Smith. He published The Wealth of Nations in 1776.
March 9th, 1776. A busy year.
Indeed. Now, everyone thinks they know Adam Smith. He's the poster boy for greed is good, the invisible hand, right?
He really is the most misquoted man in history.
Yeah.
If you actually read the text, which, let's be honest, almost no one does, you find a much more nuanced thinker.
Let's start with the invisible hand.
Okay, that metaphor appears only once in the entire book in this context. And he wasn't saying selfishness solves everything. He was making a very specific point about merchants choosing to support domestic industry over foreign industry simply because it felt safer.
So by seeking their own security?
They inadvertently promoted the public good of their own country. It wasn't some blanket magical rule for the free market.
And he wasn't blind to the downsides of all this efficiency either. We credit him with the division of labor, the pin factory example.
Right. That splitting tasks makes us incredibly productive. One man makes 1 pin a day. 10 men splitting the tasks can make 48,000. It's the engine of modern wealth.
But, and here's the twist, Smith had a huge warning attached to that, didn't he?
A severe one. He worried about the human cost. He wrote that a man who spends his whole life on a few simple operations could become, and I'm quoting here, as stupid and ignorant as it is possible for a human creature to become.
Wow. Stupid and ignorant. That is not the Adam Smith quote you see on motivational posters.
Not at all. And because of this, he argued the government had a duty to provide public education to counteract the mind-numbing effects of the market.
So the father of capitalism was advocating for state-funded education.
He was. And he had an even more cynical view of the bosses, the masters.
Right.
We think of him as pro-business, but listen to this. He wrote that masters are always in a tacit but constant and uniform combination not to raise the wages of labor.
Combination being 18th century speak for collusion.
Exactly. A conspiracy. He said when workers combine, it's noisy and everyone gets upset. But when masters combine to suppress wages, it's silent and secretive, so no one hears about it. He saw the power imbalance so clearly.
That's incredible. What about his observation on America?
Yeah, writing in 1776, he noticed a paradox. England was the richest country, but wages were higher in the North American colonies.
Why was that?
Supply and demand. In America, land was cheap and abundant. Labor was scarce. So you had to pay people well to stop them from just going off and starting their own farm.
Whereas in England,
All the land was owned. Too many workers fighting for too few jobs. That drove wages down. A perfect example of how scarcity dictates value.
it really is. Okay, let's jump to the modern day. A distinction that I found really helpful for navigating the news is the difference between positive and normative economics.
Oh, this is vital for critical thinking. In politics, these two get blurred constantly.
So break it down for us.
Positive analysis is about what is. It deals with facts that can be tested. So, the current inflation rate is 12%. That statement is either true or false. It's descriptive.
Okay. And normative.
A normative analysis is about what ought to be. It's a value judgment. The poor should pay no taxes. Or the inflation rate is too high. That's an opinion. You can't prove it in a lab.
And the problem is when people dress up their opinions as facts.
Exactly. A good economist will separate them. They'll say, positively, if we raise the minimum wage, unemployment might rise by X. Then they might say, normatively, we should do it anyway because it reduces poverty. The calculation and the judgment are separate.
We need to keep our ears open for that switch. Now, traditional economics relies on this character called Homo economicus, the rational man. But have you met people?
Yes, we are not like that. We are messy. We are emotional. And this is where behavioral economics comes in. It's a blend of psychology and economics that admits, hey, we are predictably irrational.
Predictably irrational. I like that. What's an example?
Think about nudges. We're heavily influenced by how choices are presented. When a fast food place asks, do you want to supersize that? That's a nudge.
Right.
Traditional economics says you should only do it if the calorie-to-price ratio maximizes your utility. In reality, you do it because the person asked, you were hungry, and you didn't want to hold up the line. You were nudged.
There was also that great bit from Dan Ariely's work on motivation.
Yes. Traditional economics assumes we just work for money. But Ariely found that meaning is a huge economic driver.
Meaning in what sense?
In the sense that your work matters. Feeling a sense of responsibility and progress often matters more to job satisfaction than the paycheck. If you pay someone to dig a hole and then fill it back up, they will hate it, even if the pay is good.
That explains why people work so hard on their hobbies for free.
Exactly. We aren't coin-operated robots. We need purpose.
Let's zoom back out to the big systems. We hear words like capitalism, socialism.
Hmm.
How would we distinguish them simply?
It mostly boils down to who owns the factors of production. In a capitalist system, private individuals own the land and capital. The motive is profit.
And the opposite.
A command economy, the state owns the resources, the government decides what to produce.
But most of the world is a mix, right?
Almost everyone lives in a mixed economy. The US, the UK, it's a blend. We have private markets, but the government steps in to provide public goods and to regulate things.
And they regulate because sometimes the market messes up. Market failures.
Right. The market has blind spots. The classic example here is externalities.
Okay, let's unpack that, because this explains so much of our debate about the environment.
An externality is when a transaction between you and me affects a third party. The price doesn't reflect the true cost to society.
Give us an example.
Driving into a city center, you pay for the gas in the car. That's your private cost. But you're also creating pollution and congestion that hurts other people's lungs and wastes their time. That's the social cost.
And I don't pay for that lung damage at the pump.
Exactly. It's free for you to pollute. So the market fails because the price of driving is artificially low. And because it's too cheap, you do it too much.
So what's the economic fix?
You have to internalize that externality. You put a tax on it, a congestion charge or a carbon tax.
Which people absolutely hate.
They hate it, but economically, it's how you fix the failure. It makes the private cost equal the social cost. If you have to pay 15 pounds to drive into the city, maybe you'll take the train instead. The price is now telling the truth about the cost.
It's all about incentives. If you want less of something like pollution, make it more expensive.
Precisely. It's about aligning the incentives.
We've covered a massive amount of ground. Scarcity, opportunity cost, the real Adam Smith. It's clear economics is the operating system of society.
It really is. It spans from the split-second decision to buy a latte all the way to the rise and fall of empires.
I want to end with a thought that came up in one of our sources. It's about happiness economics.
A fascinating area. For so long, we've used GDP, gross domestic product, as the ultimate scorecard. If the pile of money gets bigger, we assume we're doing better.
But are we?
That's the question. In our pursuit of maximizing GDP, are we overvaluing money? If the cost of high GDP is a destroyed environment and a stressed-out, miserable population, was it a good trade?
It's opportunity cost again. What are we giving up to get that growth?
Exactly. Perhaps traditional economics causes us to miss out on community, work-life balance, things that actually make life worth living. The answer isn't on a graph. It's in what we, as a society, decide to value.
So here is our challenge to you, the listener. This week, look for the invisible hand in your neighborhood. But more importantly, look for your own opportunity costs. When you say yes to something, what are you saying no to?
And ask yourself, are you maximizing your utility or just your busyness?
Deep thoughts to leave you with. Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.